going on, everybody? My name is Karthik and I'm the Chief Operations Officer for UZ Marketing. I'm excited today because I get to talk to you about the difference between the 5% and the 95%. What might that mean, you may be asking? Well, if you think about it, there's some data and statistics out there, depending on what sources that you're looking at. It says somewhere around 5% of people control 95% of the world's wealth, or other sources say like the top 20% control the top 80% of the world's wealth. So if you break that down, right, you're looking at it depending on which source that you're listening to. The underlying notion is that a small minority of people control the large majority of wealth. Actual numbers aside, we can run with that idea, and we'll talk about today's topic on that. So, when you're thinking about 5% of the people control 95% of the wealth, we have to figure out what is it that they're doing? What is going on? Did these guys get lucky? There's people that could have very well gotten lucky. They had $1 billion idea, worked really hard for a couple months, years, like maybe 3-5 years, built something, and then sold it for a lot, like YouTube, Instagram. Those are things that was built, and it was built over a few years. It started picking up traction, and then bam, these guys were able to sell it for hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And these purchases, just you hear about them all the time. One of the ones that I look at very recently is Intuit. Intuit, who makes QuickBooks. They now own Credit Karma. They now own Mint. They now own a whole bunch of other things. And it's just amazing, but how are these companies gathering and being able to buy all the resources of all these other companies, right? So think about it. What is it that the 5% of people are doing that the 95% of people are not doing? There's a whole bunch of things, and like you can look at very small, minute details, or you can look at big picture type things. But at the end of the day, there is a very clear distinction between what the 5%ers do and what the 95%ers do. So for the sake of this conversation, we're going to talk about 5%ers versus the 95%ers. We have to break that down. We have to figure out what it is. And like I said earlier, there's a lot that you can just talk about and name, but we don't want to get into all the nitty-gritty of that. But let's give a couple examples. So if you're thinking about one thing that could separate the 5%ers from the 95%ers, if you ask me, the very obvious one is work ethic. So somebody that has a lot of work ethic by default has the potential to be really successful. Now, work ethic alone only goes so far, right? Because work ethic alone will get you working very hard, and you put 100% of your time when you're at work, you work. You can get successful that way, but the level of success that you're going to experience is going to vary based on how you leverage other things. Work ethic alone will get you pretty far in life, but work ethic alone will not make you have like a multi-million-dollar business. There's going to be so many other facets involved in order to get that. What's another one? One thing that I believe is very crucial that the 5%ers have mastered that the 95%ers have not is time management. And the second one, probably close second, is prioritizing. Between those two, time management and prioritizing, and I've talked to lots of people. And I've talked to a lot of people about their projects, and I'm not just talking about work related, I'm talking like friends, networks, like people that I've met. A lot of different people. I've had the blessing to hear about their life story and how they are at work. And what I come to realize is many people do not know how to prioritize or manage their time. So let's say you have a series of 10 different tasks that you have to do. One of them is going to have incredibly urgent results. Like if you do that 1 out of 10 things, you'll get the best results. For some reason, people like to look at what's the most fun, or what's the easiest, or the quickest. Like people tend to pick and choose the ones that is not necessarily the most effective project for the overall growth. They tend to focus on what's called the shiny object syndrome, meaning something that you're going this path, all of a sudden something's over here and it's like, oh, let me grab this. Ooh, this looks good. Ooh, this looks good. And trust me, I'm ADHD and I am the definition of that. So I've had to work on that. I have to figure out what is going to produce the best results fastest, but is also the most important to work on. There is something that could be done that is very easy, but it's not going to produce long-term results. But there's something that I could be doing, like I could do these series of projects, and if I do these, I'm going to have results for a long time. So that's kind of what separates the 95%ers from the 5%ers. And that's very interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people that don't know how to manage their time and prioritize. But that's where the growth comes in. We know that 5% of people have this ability and the 95%ers don't. So if we consider that people don't have the skill, but the people who do are successful, it's like almost like a no-brainer. Let me get these skills. Let me get time management skills. Let me get prioritizing skills, right? So those are a couple things. What else? What else do the 95%ers do that what else do the 5%ers do that the 95%ers don't do? Or what do the 5%ers don't do that the 95%ers do? Okay, one, I have a whole list of these, but here's one. Complaining. 5%ers do not complain about anything. Anytime that a problem is brought up, there is a proposed solution to it. And I'll make another video and I'll share more information about that in a whole different video, because that's important enough to where you need to know the difference between a complaining or problem solving. What else? If you could think to yourself, imagine some of the most famous millionaires, billionaires, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, those type of guys. Systems. They're excellent at creating systems. Now, I've heard so many different ways to think about systems. One of my favorite is save yourself time, energy, money. That's what SYSTEM stands for. And I love that because when you develop a system for something, you are developing a way to save yourself time, energy, money. And 5%ers are masters at this. And I'm telling you, absolute fundamental masters of this. They eat, breathe, live, drink. They drink systems, right? Like that's just how it is. And that's one of the fundamentals that you're gonna require in your pursuit of growth and success is being able to develop systems, and especially developing systems where there isn't anything of the sort in being implemented at that moment. You have to figure out, okay, well, this is taking me 3 hours to do this. You have to think, how can I make this more effective? So it could be something as simple as write down your steps, analyze the list of steps that you've written down, and then think to yourself, okay, maybe I can rearrange this. Maybe I can put this task down here. Maybe I can scratch this task off completely. Or maybe I can merge these two tasks together. So you'll be able to, once you have it on paper, you could do a lot with it once it's on paper. And that's on the simple side. What about on the more complex side? So I actually believe that systems and life in general, you're gonna get the best results from tackling the small things. You tackle enough of the small things and your path has all of a sudden veered completely in the direction that you wanted to go. A lot of people have the problem of wanting to focus on the big, giant change, which is going to take months and maybe even years to change, whereas they're missing the small changes that they can make. So this goes back to prioritizing, right? If you prioritize and manage your time, you can figure out, okay, this is a small change that I can make that will take me on the right path, but it's such a minor change. But if you think about how that change compounds over time, you get that effect day after day after day, week after week after week. And that change has solved something in your time or has solved something in your business that will help you for the long term. I like to think of it this way. Can you think of, those little semicircle devices, or not devices, the semicircle rulers that we get? I think they're called protractors or compass. Sorry, I don't remember which one. But if you think about it, let's say this is a compass, or let's use this as an example, right? This is a circle. So let's say this is your path. If you change nothing, if you change absolutely nothing, this is the path that you're going to take. But let's say you make a small, minor change that takes you a fraction different direction. Let's say that fraction then becomes here. Now, at first glance, it doesn't look like that's a very large change. And in fact, it's not, because we're talking about it being small changes. So this small change, however, if you compound it over the course of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, if you extrapolate this, whereas when you were going to be over here when you started, you'll be over here when you ended. So think about that. Enough of those small minor changes will get you so far down a different path that those are what you want to look for, because it compounds itself. That's the magic of compounding, or compound interest if you look at it in a financial sense. Another thing that the 5%ers do that the 95%ers don't is really understanding how leverage works. Now, I don't know about you, but I've heard many definitions of leverage. And I gotta tell you, every single one of them confused the crap out of me, because I don't know much about physics. I'm not a physics kind of guy, but when you talk about leverage being the ability to move some other object, I don't even want to describe it. It just complicates me. But once I realized that leverage is basically using something that you don't already have to your advantage, that once I understood that, it blew my mind. And all of a sudden, ever since that moment, I started talking about leverage every single day, basically. You can ask the people that I talk to mostly, they'll tell you that I use the word leverage so many times. Because leverage is what these successful people, they know how to leverage time, energy, and money. And what else is energy, time, and money? System. So imagine creating a system to leverage other people's time, energy, and money. Man, it's like you're winning not just in the systems area or not just in the leverage area, but you're winning in both, and you're compounding itself over the course of like however long it is. Okay, I'm getting really excited because leveraging is very interesting, and you can actually start doing this right away. The 5%ers know how to leverage time. So let's give you a quick example. Leveraging somebody's time. Let's say you have a front desk receptionist, right? The front desk receptionists answer phone calls every single day. How many hours in a day are they available? Let's say they work a full 8-hour day, so they're available 8 hours, right? So if they're available 8 hours, do you think they're on the phone 8 hours a day? Probably not. There's gonna be some downtime here and there. There's gonna be 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes here, or maybe 20, 30 minutes at some point, or there's like extra time that is available to be utilized and to channel that into something constructive that can build your organization. That's the time that you can leverage. You can use the time that they are there to your advantage to take on some of the duties that you are doing now, passing that on to the next person, training that next person, building them into the next leader. So giving them a growth plan. So you're leveraging their time to take on a task, but by doing that, they are leveraging your need to have help to potentially grow themselves. So it's actually both parties are winning in that regard. Another way of thinking of leverage is labor. I'll give you an example of Amazon's Fulfilled by Amazon warehouse. I don't want to get too deep into this because it might be a little confusing if you don't do e-commerce, but let's just describe it like this. Amazon FBA, when you order something that is free Prime 1-day shipping, likely the seller had sent a bunch of products of the same type packaged to Amazon's warehouse. Now, when it comes to custom t-shirts, if you want to send 100 single t-shirts, you can either send them pre-bagged in its own individual sleeve with an insert in it. That would be your packaging. You will be packaging it one by one and sending 100 of them to Amazon's warehouse. They offer a service where all you have to do is send them the shirts in a box, and they will insert it into their own packaging, and those sleeves, they'll put it on the shelf, and then basically when a customer orders it, they're ordering your shirt, but the packaging came from Amazon, and who packed it? An Amazon worker. So in that instance, the seller just leveraged Amazon's labor, time, energy, and resources to pack that order that is going to be fulfilled by Amazon. That means all you had to do was send the shirts, and they took care of everything else. Of course, you're paying for a fee, you're paying for a service, so it's gonna, of course, include the packaging, the labor, and all that stuff. You're paying for it, but if you think about it, how much time does it take you to do that? And if it takes you a certain amount of time, could it be more effective to have Amazon do it for the amount that you're paying? It's like a nominal fee. I can't remember what it is. It's like something like $1 or something like that. And if you think about it, like the cost of labor on your side, if you can use that same amount of time into something more constructive that can give you more profit in the long run, that's where you should be spending your time. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it, because you're wanting to leverage what's going to be the most effective use of time, energy, and resources. So if somebody else has something that you could benefit from, you can leverage that. Now, I went really deep into the leverage topic, but that's one of the things that the 5%ers are masters at. They know how to leverage people. They know how to leverage other people's time. And you might have heard this, or you may not have. It's called OPM. OPM stands for other people's money. And when I first heard that back in 2012, I thought it was a joke, because other people's money? Okay, like how do I use other people's money? Am I just gonna ask for them to give me $5 so I can go buy a perfume that I can resell? I don't know. I didn't grasp it at that time, but over time, I realized in order to use OPM, you can take out a loan. Though that's technically leveraging other people's money. You can get investors. So these are ways you can actually build your business by using somebody else's capital. Another thing that the 5%ers do that the 95%ers don't is they really understand human psychology. I love this topic because human psychology is such an interesting beast. I spent a lot of time contemplating how people think, looking at people's responses to certain things that I say, or watching from a third-party perspective, watching two people interact with each other and trying to analyze in my head how what this person said, he's technically right, what this girl said, she's technically right, and they're both right in their own ways, but they're arguing with each other. So, like, what happens in that situation? Each person believes that they are themselves right, and especially when it comes to culture, or when it comes to the way that people were raised, they firmly believe without a shadow of a doubt that they were raised the right way. But if someone acts not in accordance with how this person was raised, this person is considered rude or obnoxious because this guy thinks that the way he was raised is the right way. Now, that's the human psychology. This person believes he's right, this person believes she's right, and if both people believe that they're right, then where does that put you? Is that like a standstill? Is it like a stalemate at that point? Well, if you understand that that's how people think, you understand that information about them, you believe that this person thinks that they're right. So in that case, you don't want to spend your time arguing with them to prove them wrong. Instead, try to bring out the facts and help them make the decision for themselves. So once you start calling somebody out, there's a way to do it, but once you start calling somebody out and they start to feel attacked, their immediate reaction is going to put up a defense. So there's a way to tactfully do that, but this is not the time and place to talk about it. I'm bringing this up because I wanted to talk to you about the psychology. So if you somehow manage to make the person you're talking to feel attacked, then they're immediately going to put up a wall and you're going to get pushback. You're going to get resistance, and the point that you're trying to make is not going to work because you have raised their defenses, and because they feel like they're being attacked, they could be in a situation almost like a fight or flight verbal response. Like you will say something or ask them a question and they'll straight up just lie to you, like for no reasonable reason whatsoever. Like you ask a question, you know the answer, and they give you like some completely out of left field, really weird response like, why would this person even lie to me? I know this person is lying. But it's because that's the fight or flight reaction that you're triggering by making that comment or a question. And that's some of the basic things that you don't have to like study psychological textbooks, right? And I'm not even going to sit here and say I'm a master at it, because I'm not. I am far from being a master at it. But I do believe that the more I spend time watching and observing and learning, the stronger that I'm getting at it. And I believe that the 5%ers are so good at this that's another reason why they are in the 5%. So on that note, we have to consider, how are the 5%ers leveraging people and how do they understand human psychology? This is excellent because now we're getting to a place where we can understand how to move people. That's another trait that the 5%ers have. They can move people. They can move them to do things. They can inspire them. They can change them. They can challenge them. They can help grow people. And that's one of the things that a lot of these successful people, man, they're successful because they have a whole army of people who got behind them, or they were able to inspire enough people to follow them and help them in their vision. And you don't even just have to be a CEO or founder to align with this. You don't have to be the one person in charge. You could be a person of authority in a company, and you can move people enough to make them inspired to follow you. That's a trait of the 5%ers. It's kind of, in a way, it's like leveraging them, because you are leveraging other people's energy and resources, but how can you get them to be so willing to commit their personal time, energy, money to your cause? You have to know how to move them. What changes them as a person? What affects them? What inspires them? So when you know what somebody really wants out of life, you can have a conversation. You can say, hey, I think you want this and I can help you get there. How can I help you? Would you be willing to go with me as I go on this journey? So that's something you can think of, because the 5% of people, they know how to move people. Now, on to the final thing that I want to talk about. And I gotta say, there's so many more things that separates the 95%ers from the 5%ers. But this last thing I want to talk to you about is so crucial. And it actually sometimes bugs me on a fundamental level, because it makes me realize that some people need to think deeper and harder about themselves and their life. This one is, most people do not know what they want. The 95%ers do not know what they want. They do not know what they want out of life. They do not know what they want in the next 3 to 6 months, a year. They can tell you some of these things, and like, I challenge you, if you're leading a company, if you run an organization, or if you run a team, ask this, because I challenge you to ask your people what they want out of life, and make it detailed. Like, they have to tell you details. If they say they want a car, say, okay, well, how long do you expect it to take? And what steps do you need to take to get there? Dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and you'll find out that people generally don't know what they want. 5% of people, they are so sold on what they want out of life that they can tell you with their eyes closed, and they can tell you so confidently that they know this is what I want. And even if that person doesn't have the success that the 5%ers have, just the fact that they know what they want, everything else can follow, right? If they have a detailed list of what they want, how they're going to get it, and how long it's going to take, you could best be bet that this person is miles ahead of 95% of the population. Because if you ask people what they want, they're not going to be able to give you a clear answer. And what that tells me is that 95% of people haven't thought deeply enough about what they want out of life, that they're not able to tell you the details of what they want, how they want to get it, and how long it's going to take. So here's a little interesting standstill. Here's the interesting debate that we have to balance. So if these people do not know what they want out of life, how can we leverage them? How can we understand their psychology? How do we tie all these things in that we're talking about into making these things a reality? Well, if somebody doesn't know what they want, they'll be maybe open to hearing what you can offer them. That's 95% of people will be willing to listen. If you have a way that they can improve their life and you can help them get it, they will most likely get behind your cause. And if you think about it, so people don't know the path that they want to take. They won't tell you what exact job duty or role that they want to play and what series of steps that they want to take to get to the next one. But if you tell them, hey, I have this position available. It's front desk. And for the first 3 months, you're going to be working on front desk. You're going to be learning how to deal with customer service. You're going to be learning how to interact with customers. You're going to learn about the products and all these different things. That's what you're going to do in the first 3 months. Then I can move you to sales. And after the sales, you'll be earning a little bit more income, and you're going to be putting in orders, and you're going to be helping the customer. You'll really learn deeply about the customers and the product knowledge. After that, I can put you in development. So once you know about the products, once you know how customers use it, and once you know what customers are thinking like, you can then go on to develop further products. You can do research and development and things like that. And then that's just a 3-phase part of this path that you can potentially give to somebody. And if you explain it, people always want to know what's in it for them. every single person, when you're asking them to do something, you have to know that they know that what they're thinking is what's in it for me. That's part of the human psychology. So if you lead them and you start with this, you say, hey, this is what I can give you. I think you can grow to be a very strong person at this organization. This is how you can get there, and this is the money that you're gonna earn along the way. If you do all that, you're thinking for them, you're helping them put a path in their life, you're generating value for them, and you're helping that person feel like, oh wow, I have an opportunity here. I think I can actually make a difference, and this person actually thinks that I am worthy of growth. So this is all in a roundabout way, everything that I mentioned in the last 20 or so minutes, that you're understanding human psychology, you're learning how people think, because first, in order to get to move them, you have to know what they're thinking, and you have to know what makes them tick, like what makes them keep going. So you generate that, then you can start leveraging their time, resources. Once you have them fully committed, you're gonna get maximum results from that person. If you just have a person that is just there because they're there for a job and they're there to collect a paycheck, their results, I mean, you're still leveraging their time, but you're not leveraging their efficiency. So all this said, right? And like I said, that was the last topic that I want to bring up, but I mentioned earlier, there's so many more topics that I want to talk about in this whole series of mindset, and other videos like it will give you an example of all these different things from my experience learning about the 5%ers. Makes me understand how these people get there, and it makes me realize that if I implement them in my own life, I can also get there. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's amazing to be on here. I think this video was a little bit longer than usual, but I had a viewer once tell me recently that I talk too fast. So I agree, I do talk too fast. So I'm trying to slow down my talking. Thank you for the feedback. I take every single one of your feedback sincerely. So I'm taking your feedback, and that might be why this video has gotten a lot longer than normal. But please give me your feedback. I love to hear what you guys have to say. I'll read every single one of your comments. I would love to hear from you guys. So if you have a topic that you would like me to discuss, I'll be happy to do that. So till then, take care.